Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for Dragon Keeper by Rob and Hobb. But before we go ahead and get on into the review, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box below for links to all of my social medias, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways. The way that I structure my reviews is I talk about the plot and world, the characters, the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like, and then I give the book an overall rating. So if you're interested in just skipping to any one of those particular sections, I will put timestamps down below. Dragon Keeper is the first book in the REIVEW Chronicles, which takes place in the realm of the Elderlings, and it is the 10th Rob and Hobb book that I have read, and I will say that it will really benefit you to have read all of the other books in her realm of the Elderlings before picking up Dragon Keeper. While we are following a brand new set of characters, it is helpful to be familiar with the world, as well as some of the history that has to do with the dragons, because this book essentially revolves around preserving the lives of newly hatched dragons. Also, there are some slight spoilers for the live ship traders because we do get cameos from some of the characters from that series, such as Althea, Trell, and Malta. The plot of Dragon Keeper is exactly that. We follow a group of people that are chosen by the Rainwilds Council to take a group of newly hatched dragons and lead them from the Rainwilds to Calsingra, which is a mythical, fabled city of dragons. And if you have read any of the other books, you know that dragons, new dragons, are imbued with the memories of previous dragons. So they are all born with this innate knowledge of this city and where they should be and how they should act and what they should do. So we follow a main dragon kind of named Centaura. We do have a point of view from this dragon, and she is the one that is really kind of hearing the call to go to Calsingra. The group of people that were chosen as Dragon Keepers were people that were basically shunned by other members of the Rainwild Society. They are touched by the Rainwilds, so it's called, and they all kind of resemble or have some sort of mutation. One of our main characters, Thymara, is described as having claws. Some of them have scales, but it's not just people that are like touched by the Rainwilds. We also have a couple people that were freed slaves. So it is just kind of the undesirables that are recruited to become these Dragon Keepers, because what I'm assuming is that they don't think that this journey is going to work out and that these Dragon Keepers will technically return. Then we follow a character named Elise, and Elise is a Bingtown trader, and she really has spent her entire life studying dragons, getting her hands on any piece of literature about dragons and educating herself, and it is her sole dream to see newly hatched dragons. And she never thought that she would be married because she's not really like a pretty girl or what she thinks is pretty or desirable, but she ends up getting a proposition from a man, and it's more like a business marriage than like a romantic marriage, but she ends up agreeing to this marriage only if he agrees to allow her to go to the Rainwilds to study dragons, which he does. So we follow Elise on her journey with her best childhood friend, or a childhood friend named Cedric, who also works for her husband, to the Rainwilds to study these newly hatched dragons. Unlike some of Rob and Hobb's other books, this is a third-person point of view. I personally like her first-person point of view better than how she writes third-person, but that's just a personal preference. We follow a couple different point of views in the story. We follow Elise, we follow Thelmyra, we follow Leftrin, who is the captain of this river boat that can get into like really narrow and shallow parts of the river of the Rainwilds. And then we follow Cedric, who is accompanying Elise to the Rainwilds, who, like I said, is her childhood friend as well as employed by her husband. I feel like the two main characters, the two female leads, Thymara and Elise, are very similar in a lot of ways. Elise is about her mid-20s, Thymara is about 16, and both of them just love dragons and want to be involved in the preservation of dragons in this world because dragons have been absent for such a long time. Both of these girls have really low self-confidence with regards to how people view them. Thymara, like I said, has claws and some deformities, and she's basically told her whole life that she should have been left to die, that they don't accept people like that in the Rainwilds, but her father kept her. She's been told that she's never going to be able to get married or have her own family, so she really has nothing to live for except for this journey of taking these dragons to Kelsingra. So she has a warped view of a lot of things and tries to derive happiness wherever she can, just not human relationships really. And Elise is kind of the same way. Elise was always felt undesirable and not pretty, but she knew she was intelligent, and she was always resigned to the fact that she would never get married because no guy would want her, and she has focused her life on her academics. Then we have Cedric. Cedric, I was not anticipating having a point of view in the story because it isn't introduced till like later on in the story. And at first I liked Cedric the way that he was portrayed at the beginning of the book. He was Elise's like great friend growing up, and he is the secretary to her husband. But as we learn more about him, we learn that he's really got a lot of secrets and he's keeping a lot of stuff from Elise. He starts doing stuff basically to benefit himself with regards to the dragons, and he's really not as good of a friend to Elise as we're led to believe. And I really found myself disliking Cedric. There's really no redeemable qualities about him. I feel like he's kind of a coward and a manipulator and a liar, and really the more I learn about him, the more I just don't like him and his interactions with his supposed best friend. So I'm really interested to see where Robin Hobb kind of takes the storyline with Cedric, because he's just not a character I enjoy. As for the things that I really like Lost City tropes. So like I said, these dragons are trying to go to Kelsingra, and Elise has been studying where the city might be and just more about it. That's why she was chosen to accompany these dragons. So I really love that trope. We really don't know much about Kelsingra, so there's still a lot of mystery surrounding that. Another thing I like about Hobb, and this is just all of her books in general, is how much time she spends developing her characters. Her books are known as being very character driven. They're known for being very slow burn, and she does that as a way to allow the reader to really get to know her characters. So I felt like I really knew Elise. I really knew Thymara. I really felt for them and their struggle to kind of create their own identity and find their place in the world and find something in which they could derive happiness and importance. And I really felt for these two characters. So anytime an author can make me emotionally invested in a story or in characters, like to me, I'm going to enjoy that book. And I feel like that's the characteristic of a good author. And she managed to do that with both of those two women characters. And I really enjoyed the setting, which was the Rain Wilds. We got to see more of that and kind of have an expansion on the world and the people living there and how that area of the world functions. And I really enjoyed that. It's very swampy. It's very rainforesty. It's along this river that the water is acidic and can really, really damage you in boats. And there's just a lot that goes into this part of the world. And then we have that connection to the Latch of Traders or Bingtown. And I just really enjoyed those connections and just the expansion of the world that Hobb gave us. As for the things that I didn't like, this book really did not have a climax. It did not have a conclusion. It really did not have a complete story arc. And I've heard that this book is like obviously it's the first book in a series, so it's the setup for the rest of the series, but I just felt like nothing really happened. It was all setup. We were getting introduced to these characters, spending a lot of times with these characters, and then what was going on with the dragons, but then nothing else happened. It was incredibly slow, even for Hobb. And I didn't even feel like there was much of an antagonist introduced. Yes, we have some squabbles between the different dragon keepers. We have some squabbles between Elise and Cedric, but it's nothing like cataclysmic, like nothing that I would see Hobb writing an entire story about. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of other antagonist that's introduced at some point, because there has to be, because without a conflict or a main conflict, like this entire story is going to go flat. So as of right now, there was no major conflict introduced in my opinion. Having said that, there was also not a lot of action, and I don't mind that. I actually listened to this book entirely on audio. I don't know if I physically read it, if I would have found it really slow and boring. I think audiobook helped because I can listen to it while I'm doing other stuff, driving, so I'm not just like sitting reading. But I could see how a lot of people would get frustrated because of how slow this is and how little action there is. But the audiobook for me really, really worked. I have heard that in this series, there is a complete story arc. So if you're just reading the first book, like don't get frustrated because more stuff is to come. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. Also, the fact that I have read 9 Robin Hobb books before jumping into this has given me faith in the author, because I know what kind of author she is. I know what she delivers. But if I was a new to Robin Hobb reader and I picked up Dragon Keeper, I probably would be very frustrated and not want to read the rest of the series. But I have experience with this author, so I trust that this is going to be a really good series. series. Just this first book, this first installment, was a bit of a challenge just for the lack of conflict, the lack of antagonist, the lack of action, and kind of the little bit of setup we got. So I'm just going to continue this series purely on my experience with the author and the faith that I have in her. All in all, I gave Dragon Keeper 3.5 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but I think, like I said, the fact that I've read so many Hobb books before has given me motivation to continue, and I am going to be continuing in February with Dragon Haven. So if you are a Robin Hobb fan, I do recommend checking this book out, and stay tuned as I continue to review the rest of the books in this series to see how the story pans out. Okay, you guys, that is it for my review of Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book and what you thought of it, and I will see y'all in another video soon. Goodbye!